My soul looks back and wonders how I got over, indeed, but I find it unexpectedly difficult to remember in detail how I got started. I will never, for example, forget Saul Levitas, the editor of The New Leader, who gave me my first book review assignment sometime in 1946, nor Mary Green, a wonderful woman who was his man Friday, but I do not remember exactly how I met them. I do remember how my life in Greenwich Village began, which is essentially how my career began. For it began when I was 15. One day, a DeWitt Clinton High School running buddy, Emil Kapoya, played hooky without me and went down to Greenwich Village and made an acquaintance of Buford Delaney. The next day, he told me about this wonderful man he had met, a black, then Negro or colored, painter, and said that I must meet him. And he gave me Buford Delaney's address. I had a Dickinsonian job after school in a sweatshop on Canal Street and was getting on so badly at home that I dreaded going home. And so, sometime later, I went to 181 Green Street where Buford lived in and introduced myself. I was terrified. Once I had climbed those stairs and knocked on that door, a short, round, brown man came to the door and looked at me. He had the most extraordinary eyes I had ever seen. When he had completed his instant x-ray of my brain, lungs, liver, heart, bowels, and spinal column, while I had said usefully, "Lord, I was here to hear Buford sing," later and for many years opened the unusual door. My running buddy had sent me to the right one, and not a moment too soon. I walked through that door into Buford's colors, on the easel, on the pallet, against the wall, sometimes turned to the wall and sometimes in limbo, covered by white sheets. It was a small studio, but it didn't seem small, with a black pot-bellied stove somewhere near the two windows. I remember two windows, there may have only been one. There was a fire escape which Buford simply, by his presence, had transmuted into the most exclusive terrace in Manhattan. I walked into music. I had grown up with music, but now, on Buford's small black record player, I began to hear what had never dared or been able to hear. Buford never gave me any lectures, but in his studio and because of his presence, I really began to hear Ella Fitzgerald, Ma Rainey, Louis Armstrong, Bessie Smith, Ethel Waters, Paul Robinson, Lena Horne, and Fats Waller. He could inform me about Duke Ellington and W.C. Handy and Josh White, introduce me to Frankie Newton, and tell tales about Ethel Waters. And these people were not meant to be looked on by me as celebrities, but as part of Buford's life and as part of my inheritance. I may have been with Buford, for example, the first time I saw Paul Robeson in concert and in Othello. But I know that he bought the tickets for us, really for me, to see and hear Miss Marian Anderson at Carnegie Hall. Because of her color, Miss Anderson was not allowed to sing at the Met, nor, as far as the Daughters of the American Revolution were concerned, anywhere in Washington where white people might risk hearing her. Eleanor Roosevelt was appalled by this species of patriotism and arranged for Marian Anderson to sing on the steps of Lincoln Memorial. This was quite marvelous and passionate event in those years, triggered by the indignation of one woman who had clearly, it seemed to me, married beneath her. By this time, I was working for the Army, or the Yankee Dollar, in New Jersey. I hitchhiked in sub-zero weather out of what I will always remember as one of the lowest and most obscene circles of hell into Manhattan, where both Buford and Miss Anderson were on hand to inform me that I had no right to permit myself to be defined by so pitiful a people. Not only was I not born to be a slave, I was not born to hope to become the equal of a slave master. They had the masters, incontestably, the rope in time, with enough they would hang themselves with. They were not to hang me. I was to see them. If Buford and Miss Anderson were part of my inheritance, I was a part of their hope. I still remember Miss Anderson at the end of that concert in a kind of smoky yellow gown, her skin copper and tan, roses in the air about her, roses at her feet. Buford painted it, an enormous painting. He fixed it in time for me, forever, and he painted it, he said, for me. Buford was the first walking, living proof for me that a black man could be an artist. In a warmer time, in a less blasphemous place, he would have been recognized as my master and I as his pupil. He became, for me, an example of courage and integrity, humility and passion, and absolute integrity. I saw him shaken many times, and I lived to see him broken, but I never seen him bow.